They swore they loved you. Until you disappeared, they said you mattered. They said you were irreplaceable, but the moment you were gone, the silence spoke louder than all their promises, and in that silence, you finally heard the truth. Why does absence feel more powerful than presence? You were there, you gave, you stayed, and still, they only saw your worth when you were no longer there to prove it. Have you ever noticed? They only miss you when you're gone. That's not love. That's emotional hunger, disguised as affection. And maybe, just maybe, disappearing is the only way to find out if you ever truly mattered or if you were just convenient. Attachment isn't love. It's fear of being alone, dressed up as affection. It's not about loving someone for who they are, but for the emptiness they seem to fill. Carl Jung once said, "People make unconscious projections and then call it destiny." You think you're in love, but maybe what you feel is just a reflection of what you need, not who that person truly is. That's a hard truth, hard to see, harder to accept, because so many relationships are nothing more than silent agreements between two empty spaces. You give what the other craves, and in return, they pretend that's love. But listen closely. They don't love you. They love the relief you bring to their emptiness. And you confuse that with love, because it hurts less than facing the truth. But deep down, you know you're trapped in an absence that pretends to be presence. The pain of attachment is subtle. It doesn't scream, but it eats away at you. It's the kind of pain that only shows up when you try to walk away, because then you realize they never loved you. They only loved not feeling alone with themselves. You only understand the weight of your presence when you choose to disappear, because it's in absence that masks fall. In the silence, true intentions are revealed. Presence can be addictive. It can hide. It can be taken for granted, simply because it's always there. But absence? Absence exposes. Your absence is a mirror. It reveals who truly feels and who was just using you as emotional anesthesia. No one feels thirsty while the water flows. But in the desert, the source is finally remembered. That's the paradox. The more present you are, the less they see you. The more you give, the more blind they become to your giving. Psychology calls this emotional habituation. You become part of the background. They stop noticing you but keep using you, and then you disappear. Suddenly the silence is uncomfortable. Your absence becomes unbearable. They say they miss you, but do they really miss you, or do they miss what you represented? In Buddhism, there's an old teaching. It's through detachment that essence is revealed. When you stop being available, they're forced to face themselves, and the truth comes out. If there was love, it stays. If there was neediness, it screams. The effect of no contact isn't punishment, it's revelation. Have you ever wondered if people love you or just love what you do for them? You can be light and still be seen only as a flashlight, not for your essence, but for the use you provide in someone else's darkness. That's the trap. You give, you adapt, you pour yourself out, and in return, they hand you a mirage of importance. But the truth is harsh. They don't miss you. They miss the mirror you held up to their ego. You were never a person to them. You were a solution. A solution. For loneliness, for insecurity, for the fear they had of facing themselves. And when you disappear, it's not you they long for. It's the relief you used to bring. You were the medicine, never the patient. René Girard spoke of mimetic desire. We don't desire what we want. We desire what others seem to have. They desired you, not for who you are, but because you appeared to hold what they couldn't find in themselves. Presence, peace, balance, maybe even freedom. But that was envy, disguised as affection, adoration, contaminated by need, a psychological game where you were just a character in the theater of someone else's emptiness. And now that you've gone, they don't know what to do with the silence, not because you're missing, but because now they have to face what they always tried to avoid themselves. Letting go isn't being cold, it's being free. It's learning not to confuse love with need, presence with dependence, attention with affection. Attachment is desperate, it begs for signs, it clings to any trace of presence. But true love has space, has stillness, has peace. Carl Jung once said, people project what they can't integrate within themselves. You cling to someone when you can't face what's missing inside you, and then you project your pain onto them, hoping they'll fix it. But that kind of love is a prison. You don't love the person. You love what you think they can heal. Modern psychology calls this intermittent reinforcement. When someone gives you crumbs of attention in unpredictable ways, you become addicted because you never know when the next word, the next touch, the next signal will come. It's unpredictable, and the brain loves the unpredictable. Even when it hurts, you think it's passion, but it's just anxiety. Wearing the mask of love. Letting go is breaking the cycle. It's saying, I choose peace, even if it comes with loneliness. Letting go is courage. It's stopping the begging for scraps and beginning to demand wholeness. From yourself first, because only when you stop feeding off someone else do you learn how to nourish yourself. And then, what once was attachment becomes something greater. Self-love. Disappearing isn't weakness, it's protection, it's restoration, it's reclaiming the energy that was slowly drained from you. The moment you choose to disappear, it's not running away, it's affirming yourself. In silence, your value screams louder than any word. Have you ever noticed how words can lie, how promises dissolve in the air? But absence stays. When you disappear, you're not playing games, you're drawing a line. You're stepping away from what poisons your peace. You're breaking the cycle of emotional dependence that wears you down. The emptiness you leave behind isn't cruelty. It's space, the kind of space where truth finally has room to breathe, and no matter what they say, that silence will always be more honest than any half-hearted conversation. Absence demands respect. Creating distance is the only way. To be consumed by those who only learn to value you when you're gone. Absence is the only honest feedback mechanism. So when you disappear, you're not weak, you're strong. Strong enough to say, to be valued, I must first learn to walk away, because your absence leaves no doubts. It makes others stop and finally ask, and now, what is left of me? The void, that word we fear, that space we avoid, the silence that makes us uncomfortable. But what if the void isn't your enemy? What if the void is the doorway to your freedom? Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept yourself completely, because the void forces you to face yourself without distractions, without masks, without anyone else defining who you are. And that's where Buddhism enters. The understanding that attachment creates suffering. When you cling to what's fleeting, to ego, to titles, to people, you're feeding an illusion. But when you let go, when you surrender, the void, once seen as the end of everything, becomes the beginning of something real. The void is not a loss, it's the space where your truth can finally appear, and maybe that's the hardest thing to understand. It's not about disappearing to punish others, it's about disappearing to rediscover yourself. Jung believed that when you confront the inner void, you begin to integrate the parts of you that were hidden, the shadow. And in doing so, you stop living in fragments. You become whole. Ego dissolves, the illusion of control vanishes, and what remains is your essence. In Buddhism, the void isn't condemnation, it's liberation. It's a blank canvas where you finally get to paint your story without needing anyone else to exist. Letting go is accepting the void, and it's in that void that true freedom is found. Now comes the most painful part. If they only realize your value when you disappear, it means that, until then, you were never truly valuable to them. You were a tool, a temporary fix, a convenient solution to an emotional problem. That was never yours to solve, and now, in the silence you left behind, they feel the emptiness, but they don't miss you. They miss what you did for them. They miss the role you played. If they only notice your absence, they never valued your presence. It's cruel, it's hard to accept, but it's necessary. The truth is, many people don't get close because they love you. They get close because they need you to hold their emotional structure together. You were the anchor, the comfort, the escape, the emotional painkiller, and in the end, you only had value as long as you were useful. But here lies your liberation, not being loved for your usefulness, but for who you are. When you disappear, you don't leave just an empty space. You reveal the true weight of your presence. And maybe that's where the pain lives. What you thought was love was never love. It was need. It was dependency wearing, the mask of affection. And when you vanish, they're forced to face the truth. Maybe they'll finally understand what they lost. Or maybe they never will. But you finally get the chance to be yourself. They never loved who you really are. They loved the role you played. They loved what you did for them, what you symbolized for their ego, but not the soul you carried inside. And yes, maybe that hurts. Maybe the truth cuts deeper than the illusion of having been loved. But here's what you need to remember. It's better to be valued for your essence, even in silence, than to be needed by those who never really saw you. Disappear with dignity. Let silence speak for you. And in the end, there's only one question. Have you ever disappeared and seen who stayed? Did those who stayed truly see you, or did they just cling to what they needed from you? Think about that. And remember, your greatest power lies in being who you are, regardless of who's present and who isn't. If this reflection touched you, share your experience in the comments below. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of emotional attachment? Have you ever disappeared just to find yourself again? I'd love to hear your story, and if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more videos on self-awareness, emotional strength, and deep psychology. See you in the next video. Until then, take care, and never forget, your true value comes from within.